Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. We've got something very special for you today and we're joined by Patrick Montgomery, who is a transfer specialist and has just got a new job at the FA, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And today we're here to do our World Cup 2026 predictions, something a little bit more laid back and in the midst of absolutely everyone getting sacked and managers getting appointed and players getting bought. A little bit more of a chill one, a little bit more of time to have a bit of fun with this. So yeah, we've got a lot of different categories here today. We've got the winner, we've got Dark Horse, just give me a minute. We've got Golden Boot, Best Player, Best Young Player, and Breakout Star. For the 2026 World Cup, obviously it's going to be the biggest World Cup with 48 different teams playing. And yeah, it's going to be insane. I just want to, before we get into it, like, you were mentioning a lot about climate before in terms of like teams climatizing. It's going to be a bit of a different World Cup, obviously the pitches as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a massive challenge. I think especially for some of the European sides that aren't used to some of the warmer temperatures.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously going to be a lot of travel as well involved. I think there's a lot of, I've read probably similar articles to you with the importance of where teams are based in comparison to where they play the games, because all that recovery, movement between different altitudes, I think that's all going to play a part in how the games look, tactically, how teams set up, how they manage their energy. So I think it's going to be a really interesting thing. I think the pitches as well you've touched on are going to be really interesting. Like, could they play a factor? Like the Senegal clips, obviously gone viral with the ball bouncing. So
yeah, if anyone who's not seen it, there's a clip of Senegal playing on one of the pitches in America, and they're throwing the ball up, and it's got next to, they call it something in basketball. I think it's like dead space or something, where it's like there's like a panel on a basketball court where the ball doesn't bounce. So it's a little bit like that, but obviously that's a very bad look. And you were mentioning before, there's like a lot of people are losing their head at sort of the turf and like the size of the turf and like the thinness of it in terms of, obviously they could have like planted injuries, which is like obviously ACLs when you plant your feet and stuff. So it's going to be an incredibly different World Cup. So
yeah, and I think as well, you touched on it, even sounds so simple to say, but the ball not bouncing as much, that's going to impact
second balls.
It's going to impact how people judge attacking things, centre backs, how much they drop off. So all these elements that the teams will have to get used to. Will the pitches be different in different stadiums, in different regions, in different countries, whether it's in Canada, America, Mexico? So there's a lot of variability to what could happen. Yeah,
there could be something where it's like the Jabalani in terms of like, it could be that with stadiums or like locations this time. And obviously the climate varies so much throughout the entire of where people are playing, obviously in the World Cup. But we're gonna do it like, I think we'll do winner first straight away. I've gone with France. I think France will win it because if I'm talking just plain and simply, I think they've just got the most ridiculously stacked attack. And I think we'll go on to speak about it later, but obviously I think a lot of the French players have either got a lot of stuff to prove or have hit like a really sweet spot in their career right now where it almost feels like they could go and do one better. I think I'm looking at obviously Mbappe. Elise will have like scars from the Champions League. Obviously he wants the Ballon d'Or. He's spoken about it openly. So I think obviously a World Cup on a certain level will push him there. Cherki, he feels like an international footballer, doesn't he? Cherki with like a little bit more of the tempo he plays at. Doué. I just think they've just got a frightened, Ousmane Dembele, I've never mentioned. They've just got a frighteningly stacked attack. Obviously Ekitike was supposed to go as well. But I think if we're looking at it in terms of like, it's not always the firepower up front that wins World Cups, like obviously the Spain teams of the past. It's always usually down to like the midfielders and stuff like that. I don't know what it is, but I just look at this French team and I just think like the level of the attacking quality, and the midfield's still pretty decent. Like I'm a massive fan. Everyone knows that who watches this channel. I'm a massive fan of Tchouaméni just simply because he just oozes a bit defensive control in terms of like stopping attacks, breaking play up. And they've got really good second choice midfielders like next to him. They've got like Manu Kone, who I really like, who's a bit more of a ball carrier. Zaire Emery, who's a little bit more like technical on the ball. There's players who have always come and go, like Theo Hernandez, who always seems to play well at international tournaments. Centre backs, obviously, as we're recording this, Konate's just gone to Real Madrid, or reportedly gone to Real Madrid. So I think they're just stacked across all areas. And Mike Mignon, we can't forget either, he's a brilliant penalty stopper. It's just just the margins.
Well, I think as well, you touched on as well the fact they've had recent experiences as well of losing a World Cup final. So I know obviously some of the teams changed in that period, but I think a lot of them are still around it. So that kind of adversity some of them have been through as a team, individually, you could flip look at, obviously, Elise's had the disappointment of the Champions League final, but Doué's had the positivity of winning, Champions League semi for Elise, but Champions League final for Doué of winning.
Yeah.
They're coming off with wanting to prove again that they can go and do something at an international stage. So I think, to be honest, I've obviously gone with Spain, but I think there's a flip of a coin between those two. It may come down to injuries to a key player. It may come down to the route and the pathway that they have towards the final. But I think France as well could easily get the job done.
It's funny because obviously we've gone for you've gone for Spain, I've gone for France. And I'll give it to you in a minute to explain Spain. But I was like, we've almost gone two different sides of the coins where I've gone like full pace and power and you've gone like full control in the middle. Yeah. And it's really interesting because we're both looking at it and like the climate question, we was having a conversation downstairs and it was like, I was thinking about it and it's like, imagine you've got like a Doué Dembele off the bench or like a Mateta off the bench or someone like that or a ball carrier off the bench. I just think like that's great. But then obviously your flip side of the coin, which is, can we just kill them with like 1,000 passes, which is what Spain have usually done and obviously the Euros champions. So do you want to just, I don't think it needs to be explained, but
well, exactly that. I think you hit the nail on the head, really. I think there's different ways of obviously winning the World Cup and being successful. I think my thought process behind that was exactly what you've spoken about. I think obviously they've got the recent experience of winning the Euros. I think they've obviously got a really strong depth in every position. They've got standout players, Yamal. You've obviously got a really strong midfield, whether it's obviously Gavi in there, Pedri in there, whether you've got obviously Ruiz, you've got Rodri, and then you've got, I guess people may argue and say they've not got an established nine, but they have got players that can be fluid in those front positions. So I think for me, that their ability to first and foremost know they can win, but then obviously the climate wouldn't be as much of an issue for them either. Yeah. And they've got that ability to manage the tempo of the game. And I do think, I know a lot of people speak about this in the lead up and during sort of into the World Cup, the ability to manage the ball, manage the game when people are under tension, under stress. I think even if they go 1-0 up, I think they've got the ability to kind of win 1-0, keep it calm. And I think for me, of course, you can say, and you can, on the flip side of that, you can say teams that play quick in transition are a threat, but how often can they repeat that throughout an entire tournament and keep going end to end and end to end? So I think it's very close between Spain and France, and obviously there'll always be somebody else that may come through in terms of another team. But for me, I think they could be ones that are ready to go through and sort of back up what they did at the Euros. Yeah,
I think I can't really argue with anything. I mean, we was looking at the midfield depth before in terms of the squad, and it's ridiculous, like the amount of different midfielders. So in the same way you can have the attackers for France, you can also have the midfielders for Spain in terms of the rotating and having players come off the bench. And we're going to do a full video like later on, like as we build up to the World Cup about England, because we've not got England in anything here. And I think it's not to say that it won't work for England. I think it's one of them where there's a lot of stuff that's happened with the squad that I don't necessarily think is going to push England over the line. I mean, we were talking like just before about England have always struggled versus low blocks, and it feels like the squad hasn't took that next step yet. In theory, it could very much do it on the pitch, and we don't know how it's going to look when the World Cup comes around. But it still feels like England have been missing them, like Trent Alexander-Arnold like players. And we'll make a full video on England and what our opinions of the squad is. Obviously, can they win the World Cup? Can they beat the likes of Spain, France, go through the journey there? But we're going to move on into the surprise package. Now, I've got two different teams, but I'm going to obviously try and pick one. So I initially had Japan, simply because I watched them against England at Wembley and I thought they were incredible. Really good off the ball, really good at like running. And I went through their squad and they've got so many good European level players. I think that their squad at Japan have almost got like, I feel like their influx into Europe's main leagues are like huge. I mean, I've got some stuff here. So obviously they've got Endo at Liverpool, Kubo at Sociedad, Kamada at Palace, Tanaka at Leeds, Doan at Frankfurt, Tomiyasu, Ito at Bayern Munich, Suzuki, a really good goalkeeper at Parma. And I feel like it's probably come to the moment where it's like they've almost got as high as they've ever been in terms of Europe, in terms of the amount of players they've got in Europe. Obviously, they beat Spain and Germany in the last World Cup, but that's not my dark horse. My dark horse is Turkey. Which is quite funny because the last World Cup, I think it might have been the one before, everyone was saying it was going to be Turkey, and I think they ended up getting grouped. So I've got Turkey this time. I've watched them a couple times. They're a very like flimsy squad, so sometimes they get battered, but I feel like they're a pretty steady team. And I think some of the players they've got, they're not yet like fully world class, but they could have a World Cup that's going to put them world class. And I'm looking mainly at Yildiz and Gula to almost fire them in. I think I was saying to you before, it's the first World Cup since 2002. Got to the quarterfinals of the Euros last time. And I just think this is a pretty decent squad. Gula, Yildiz, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Artikoglu, Orkun Koçku, Yilmaz. Koçku's a midfielder I always liked as well. Yeah. Really, really good. I think he played for Feyenoord on the slot.
Technically very good.
I just think Ozcan as well was pretty decent. Yeah, so they just have a really decent squad. And I think like Yildiz, I think has just won Serie A Player of the Year. Gula's had a really like topsy-turvy time. And I think even in the last World Cup, actually, or the last Euros, he scored a couple of goals.
He did. Yeah.
And I think he's one of them players a bit like a Madridster that's built for a big stage. And if you look at their group, I think they could do something.
I think as well with Gula as well, you look at, I feel like you've touched on it there, the sweet spot with the experience of being around a massive team now like Real Madrid, contributing for a team like Real Madrid, even though he's still a young player. I think he will see this as an opportunity to do something huge for his country, whether it's score a decisive goal, create a decisive moment. Yeah. He's obviously got tons of ability. So even though he may not be a mainstay every week for Madrid, he's definitely got that mentality of being a big player that wants to make an impact as well. So I think Turkey definitely, even though I think it's 2002, wasn't it, the last? Yeah. I think that team is obviously an iconic team with some of the players that played for it. But I think that's a really interesting option and a team that could, like you say, if the group suits them, they can get out the pathways quite nice for them to navigate through. Yeah, they could have a successful tournament for sure.
Yeah, I've got in their group, they've got USA, Paraguay, Australia. I would probably have them as favourites of that group. It's funny, we were looking at groups A, B and D, and because obviously the host nations have got the seed one pick or whatever, it looks like there could be in them groups somewhere who could have a really good dark horse tournament. Just before Patrick moves on, I also want to mention Ferdi Kadioglu, who's the Brighton left back. Obviously, they've got Altay Bayındır, who's Manchester United number 2. He's in there. Kadioglu is someone I really like at Brighton. I watched him against Liverpool actually, funnily at the Amex, and he played really well that day. Really modern fullback, and I think Hakan Çalhanoğlu as well is just like built for these international tournaments in terms of the way he plays the game. Lots of variety on the ball, but we'll move on into Patrick's dark horse team. So
I've gone with Ecuador. So I think these are probably ones that people may not think about as much, but I think there's a lot of reasons why they could have a successful tournament. Like definitely get out of the groups and cause some issues at the knockout stages too. I think people may not realise, obviously, there's a lot of players that they'd recognise, whether it's Mbappe, whether it's Pacho, Ordonez, Estepinian as well. I got down here, some of the record that they had during their qualification phase was crazy. I think they went on a 17-match unbeaten run. They only had 2 defeats in 18 World Cup qualifying games, 13 clean sheets in that period, conceded just 5 goals in 18 World Cup qualifiers. And I think for me, that was, even then, there was a -3 point deduction at the start of that qualification phase. So I think the way they play in that pragmatic style is very much like 2 banks of 4. Yeah. Making it really congested centrally. They've got Caicedo in the middle of the pitch as well, who's arguably the best of his type in that position. Yeah. I think they're very well set up to make it difficult for some of the bigger teams once they get into knockout stages. So they've obviously been to, I think, Argentina away in Buenos Aires and won. They only lost, I think, to Brazil in their qualification campaign. So I think for me, climate wouldn't be an issue. Yeah. They've got a squad makeup that has European experience. They've obviously got Kendry Páez as well, who could be their sort of flair player, the one that could open things up for them. Yeah. Issue could be obviously scoring goals because they have that pragmatic style, but I think that lends itself to tournament football when things do get a bit tense and do get a bit edgy. I think they could be ones that could make it difficult and may nick a 1-0 against a so-called bigger and more elite side. So Ecuador are the ones I've gone for. I also sort of touched on with you, sort of Mexico. Maybe not.
Just have a look at this. This is really cool, to be fair. I didn't know this. So.
Yeah, so I think with them, obviously maybe not deemed as much of a smaller nation naturally, and obviously one of the host sort of countries for the tournament. But some of the stats here, 7 of the 8 last World Cups, they've actually made the round of 16, which I think surprised a lot of people when you see that. I think the group is quite favourable if they obviously perform to their level. I think if they win their group. They then play in Mexico City in one of the knockout stages too.
Yeah.
So anything, we sort of discussed this before. I think a home nation, if they can get a bit of momentum behind them,
Could have a
and they've got
deep
3
run
games at home, could have the 4th game at home as well. So I think they're a team that, again, could cause some difficulty for the so-called stronger nations to come through. So yeah, Ecuador will be my main sort of dark horse pick, but Mexico probably wants to keep an eye on with the climate and the fact they're home nation too. So
I think it's a good little thing on Mexico as well. Obviously they're the opener, aren't they?
Yeah.
Of the World Cup. And I think fans always naturally get more emotional in terms of like the buy-in if someone like plays the first game and just like rips it up and play really well. Their World Cup group is obviously Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and Czech Republic, which is they really should be probably favourites to win that group. So yeah, definitely one to look out for. I was just having a look at, obviously you mentioned Ecuador. I was just trying to have a look at their sort of their last lineup, and they obviously have got. You mentioned obviously before like Estupinian, Ordonez, Hincapié, Caicedo, players like that. Nilson Angulo, Sunderland fans might be familiar with him. He's really fire in the belly type player, so it'll be pretty fun to watch on the world stage. But yeah, Kendi Paez is obviously someone who's signing for Chelsea.
Yeah,
one of probably the biggest touted superstars in Europe. In South America coming through to Europe. So really interested to see how he gets on. It'll be a massive tournament for him.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where he's obviously got a bit of pressure on him now because people know about him. There's probably a bit of expectation now on him to try and provide that attacking outlet for the team, because I think there's only Enner Valencia at 36, really.
The striker.
Who's obviously people will know from his time in England, but I think other than that, people may look at the squad and say there's not too much more in an attacking sense. So there'll be pressure on him, but it could be one where he really takes that on board and makes a difference.
It can make or break players, these tournaments, and it can make or break teams. And I think we literally just before the cameras started rolling, I was talking about trying to find that like archetype of a team who's really suited to defending resiliently, like 2 banks of 4, similar to Morocco. In terms of if you come up against them teams, you hold the ball and want to like take the sting out of the game. We've seen England do it. We've seen Spain do it. Germany most likely will do it as well. It's like how resilient can you be in them blocks? And if you look at the spine, and at Morocco, it was always the one in front, that Unahi, I think, Amrabat, and then the back 5. Yeah. And I feel like Ecuador have actually got a very similar thing with like the back 4, the one in front. So it matches up really well. And so I'm going to go Turkey. Patrick's going to go Ecuador. Going to move on now into the Golden Boot. Do you want to lead on this one?
Have you got
the same one?
Yeah. I think Mbappe is probably one that doesn't surprise many people. You touched on it before. I think with the attacking options France have, I think
the creators around them.
I think I'd be so surprised if they're not getting so many opportunities. So for me, probably not the most exciting
not the most
pick,
exciting pick,
or the most like hidden pick, but I think he's one that sometimes you just have to go with what you think. I think I think you probably look on a personal level, he's probably thinking, I left PSG 2 years ago, they've won, or whenever he left, they've won 2 Champions Leagues, and it's, I need to win something big
that is
now.
primarily why I've got him.
I think he probably wants to get something big now, down over the line, so that's why I've gone for him. Yeah,
I've obviously got like Mbappe, because simply from the redemption with the Madrid saga, in terms of what's happened there on a club level, him like not really playing too much. I think he actually finished the season with, I don't know if we've even got it, but I think he had like 46 goals and assists this season, which is still ridiculous. But obviously, his World Cup record speaks for itself. He's got 14 matches played in the World Cup, 12 goals, 2 assists. His 12 goals in 14 World Cup games is obviously one of the best scoring rates in the tournament's history. He won the World Cup in 2018, obviously won the 2022 Golden Boot when he scored hat-trick against Argentina, and obviously that we can't forget either. Hat-trick in the final and then to lose it. And at the age of 23, he already equalled Pele's World Cup record. And I think it's funny, I was speaking to a producer over there, and we were talking like, Mbappe very much could finish as one of them players who, I think of him, when you think of him, you think of him in a French kit and not a club kit. And my producer was talking about R9. And it's like, when I think of R9, it's like 2002 Brazil. And I think like with Mbappe, he could very easily have 2 World Cups after this World Cup. And if he's already on 12 goals in 14 matches, with all the personal stuff that's going on, with all of this stuff going on at Madrid where he's getting battered for not pressing, I think obviously there was an issue with the surgery or something he had. Mourinho's coming in. I think the Madrid fans signed a petition to try and get him out of the club. He's now got to show that even if he isn't to leave, that he's still the best player in the world. And I think that title of best player in the world isn't really held by anyone at the moment.
And I think as well, you probably touched on that narrative a little bit, but I think PSG's success, whether it's right or wrong, a lot of that people are putting down to the fact he stepped away. Yeah. Whether that's fair or not, I think that seems to be the narrative. So I think sort of reinforcing what we've said there, I think it seems a tournament now that he really may want to grab by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah.
Really cement his place as what we know he is, like an elite footballer. So yeah, probably quite an obvious one for me, but I think he's definitely got the scope. Yamal obviously will be another one that people will speak about, but I think I've gone with Mbappe in this one.
Yeah, I've just got like potential to have Doué, Dembele, Cherki, Elise around him.
Yeah.
Just screams like the ultimate creators around you. And yeah, I don't know what it is. I just think that it's almost like, I think he's 27 now.
Yeah.
So this is, his next World Cup would be 31.
Yeah.
So he seriously needs to either, get in gear. If he's gonna leave Real Madrid after all this that's going on, the best thing he could do for himself is to have a stormer of a World Cup and prove people wrong or get a move off it. And I think when I think of the best players in the world, I think of the best players of all time, I always think about people who, like, when the lights are on, it's on.
Yeah.
I think Mbappe's just got that gene of being able to do that. And I don't know what it's called. I think it's just the superstardom.
Well, you touched on it. I think World Cup final hat-trick. You can touch on that. And I think even his record this year for Real Madrid is the numbers are still very strong. I think it's just sometimes players that get put on that pedestal, the criticism is going to be even more intense because of how good they are. So, I think he is one for sure that with all the options they've got in that team in forward positions, I cannot see him not getting so many opportunities to score goals and really impact the tournament.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was actually reading something last night, and I will move on from this, but things are just triggering in my head. I read something last night that out of like every single player to have defensive contributions in league football in the Liga this season, he's the last of every single footballer.
Okay, wow.
in La Liga.
Yeah, okay.
And then I think it also said that Jude Bellingham was like top of everyone for defensive actions, I think, in La Liga. So I was thinking about it then. And obviously the balance at Real Madrid has always been him and Vinny. Can they play together? They don't both track back. Well, if I think Cherki may play, to be fair, and I'm not saying Cherki doesn't press, but think about the wide players in this team. They do work exceptionally, like off the ball. And like Elise, we've all seen him do it. Doué, he plays for Enrique. So it's like, could he actually be at the top of the shape, cheating the press, doesn't have to do anything? And is there scope for him to prove that he can be a luxury player if it's just one player in a team? Do you know what I mean?
So it'll be interesting, definitely, to see that.
No, so I'm going to move on now. I've got best player. Do you want to lead on this, or have you got?
Yeah, so I think best overall, I went with Mbappe.
Yeah.
But I think Yamal is one that probably, if I was to think more about it, I'd may go with somebody like Yamal. I think he's, again, obviously he's coming off the back of an injury, so that's a big question mark. I think whether he'll be sort of fully in the rhythm, but I think he's one that we know what he's done at Barcelona at such a young age, still only so young, but his ability to impact the game when it comes to numbers, when it comes to scoring and creating opportunities.
Yeah.
We touched about very similar with France. I think he's in the side that could dominate the ball. We'll have chances to basically create and score goals himself. So for me, I think he's one that if Spain go far, I think a lot of it will be down to him. Yeah. And if it comes down to kind of key moments, similar to Mbappe, can he be the one that makes the difference? The sort of best player for me, probably more Yamal, in terms of an overall picture. So it'll be interesting to see that.
I did have Mbappe down, but we spoke about it downstairs. I'm gonna say Bruno. I just looked at the group and it's Congo, Uzbekistan, Colombia. If I think of what Portugal have been under Martinez for a long time, that is primarily like 75-80% possession, high up in the opposition's half. And I think that's where Bruno shines the most. And I think he's obviously going to have two people behind him in João Neves, Vitinha, or two sort of players like that who can almost let him play directly behind the front three. And I think if I look at them three teams, they're most likely going to sit off and try and nick something. I just think that, I just think he could do it. We were speaking about before, I really wanted to say that Portugal were going to have a late run into the tournament, and they very, very much still might. I think the foundations around the forward area are good, but I don't think the forwards are the world-class forwards that the other teams have. But I think if I class Bruno Fernandes in that bracket, I just think he's... Yeah, like I've watched it. I've watched him all season. Obviously, everyone knows about him.
Yeah.
I think he's a player who just creates something out of nothing. And when we were talking about England before, in terms of like they need someone like that, that's the kind of player I mean. And I remember in the last World Cup in the group stages, he was exceptional.
Yeah.
Or if it even might have been the Euros. And yeah, I'm just going to go with that, just simply because I think he'll rack up a lot of assists, but I don't think he'll score many goals.
Yeah.
But I think he's someone who could finish the World Cup on like 6 assists. And I can just imagine for Roberto Martinez, he lets him drift like all across the edge of the box, and that's where he's come alive at Manchester United. And I think he'll just kick on a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Portugal, we spoke about this before, they're probably ones that people haven't really spoken about too much. But I think the actual squad in terms of ability and experience is probably one of the better squads. I think people will always maybe have slight question marks over about whether they can take the final step. Obviously, they won the Euros. I think it was 2016, was it? They won the Euros. But I think they're definitely a side, like you said, Bruno's coming into probably the most peak form that he's been in, particularly in the last 2-3 months. I think it's going to be whether he's got the players around him that can finish the opportunities that he may create. I think they've probably got a ability to get out of the group comfortably. Then it's just going to be those small margins in the bigger fixtures, whether that can be enough for them. But I think there's no doubt in his ability. There's absolutely no doubt he relishes the big moment. I think he's all about that. So for sure,
I think it's just like a bit poetic for me. I think he's always been someone who, like, when the lights are on in the cup finals, people have often like took the mick out of him and stuff like that. I feel like this is the most complete version I've seen of him, in terms of people like to hate Ruben Amorim. That's completely fine, like whatever. The way he played him deeper in midfield, it has made him a better player in terms of his completeness of his overall game. He can probably play like that Vitinha, João Neves mould, which is come and get it and just conduct in there. But I feel like he's almost become the complete player now. And I think in a World Cup, that can't just be overstated how important that is.
Yeah, and I think as well, you spoke about the two, Vitinha and Neves, the ability for them to get on the ball.
It's
going to be...
He's going to get the ball so many times.
Yes, the ability, we see how good they are together. Like the fact he's going to get more and more ball, probably in more dangerous positions. In quicker moments when the teams are in transition, that's when he's at his best. I think if the game does get stretched or there's spaces for him to get his turn in, that's where he's devastating. So I think a lot of his may come down to the overall performance of the team. But there's no doubt if you get him in the right positions, he can 100% be a massive player in the tournament.
Best young player, you won't be surprised to know that I think we've got the same. Oh no, we've not got the same.
Different.
No, we've not got the same.
Different on this.
So I've gone Lamine Yamal. Don't think that needs explaining anymore. But Patrick's actually gone for
Desiré Doué, which again, people may say, listen, it's quite a well-known name, but I think he's definitely somebody that's in such a great moment. And I think you see how confident he is. You see how, I think I watched an interview with him the other day, like his English is perfect. Like he's clearly a super intelligent lad. I think he's able to do things on and off the ball really effectively. Loads of variety to his game. Like he's obviously coming off the back of an incredible season, tons of confidence. He's looking at it to go, right, okay, let's absolutely blitz this tournament. Like we've got a really strong team. He has a versatility to play in different positions too. So for me, I think he's one that is in again, we've used this phrase a few times, in that sweet spot of if things get into a nice rhythm for France and they start finding their feet, he's one I think could be a standout player.
Do you know what? With Doué, it was like, he's so good, but I feel like because Mbappe, Elise, Dembele are all there, people think he's like on the side. He's so good. Like I remember watching him, I think last year was like primarily his breakout year. Obviously I knew about him when he was at Rennes, sorry. He's so good. He reminds me so much of Neymar in terms of ball manipulation on the run, two-footedness. I think he's, like we were mentioning with Mbappe before, someone who's got that like aura about him to go and perform on big stages. And I think that's always something you've got to look at with these sorts
of... the confidence, even just the walkout when PSG did their celebrations. The confidence, it sounds so daft to say, but the walkout when they take them one by one into the stadium, he clearly has that good arrogance about him where he knows what he can do. And I think his first thought all the time is direct. Can he attack people? Like you see him in the warm-ups, majority of the time when he's warming up before games, everything is ball manipulation, trickery, dropping of the shoulder, short, sharp. So I think his first thought will be, can I impact the game? Can I play forward? It's not going to be I receive the ball and I play square or I play back. So that's where I think of course, you've got massive names around him, but it could be one where he goes, hold on a second, I'm at this level too. Like people may talk about Elise and Kylian Mbappe and everyone, but he might go, this is now my chance to elevate myself. So I'm in that conversation too.
It's really interesting because I think when people name the PSG front three, they always go Dembele, Kvara, and then they go, Doué. Because everyone goes like, oh, it's him or Barkley, but it's like, no, it's Doué. It's like he's a part of the three.
Well, I think he's done that. Barkley's obviously been a bit more on the fringes, hasn't he, in recent time? And again, what a player Barkley is. So
talk about depth off the bench and stuff. Yeah, just ridiculous. And yeah, we're going to move on now into the Breakout Star, which obviously for Patrick's side, who's always worked in recruitment, and for someone like myself who loves finding out about new players, this is the one that I enjoyed researching the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll let Patrick lead on this. So who have you gone with?
Yeah, so I've gone with Manzambi, playing for Switzerland, Freiburg, box-to-box midfielder, very dynamic, definitely got the scope to move into the Premier League, for example.
Yeah.
Could be one that if he shines in this tournament, will get that move either higher up domestically within Germany or maybe to teams in Italy or Spain if it's not the Premier League. But somebody I think people may have seen in the Europa League this season, but definitely got qualities that I think will catch the eye in terms of his ability to really be that number 8, his ability to drive a team forward. He can make tackles. He plays forward, he's progressive on the ball. And I think looking at Switzerland's group, I think it's fairly kind. So I think it's probably a group where they may have more dominance within games, and that will give him an opportunity to really demonstrate what his qualities are. So I think there's a few things that could align for him that people might go, okay. I think obviously within the recruitment space, he'd be well known, but it may be for like fans in the wider world may have a little watch and go, okay, this guy's definitely got qualities that could make him play at a high level than he currently is.
Yeah, we did the Bundesliga previews where we often mentioned like young up and coming players, and he was one of our spotlight focus. And I use a term with Swiss Army knife because that's literally what he is. So they've got a group of Canada, Bosnia, Qatar. I really like that player. Long legs. I just think if you watch them in the Europa League final, and that's against English opposition, which is obviously the standard we're looking at across. In terms of physicality, he was always looking to make stuff happen. Yeah. And I think he's a really good archetype for the modern game. And I know people sometimes hate the physical base, but in terms of skill set, in terms of the way he is profile-wise, he will match up so well to top-end Bundesliga, Premier League. So, my player's playing in the same group as your player. Yeah. So I have gone with Karim Aglija-Begovic. I'm sorry if I've absolutely butchered that. No, I think I've got that right. So 18-year-old Bosnian winger, well, bit of a winger, but a little bit more like flexible across the front three. He was named player of the season in the Austrian Bundesliga. I think he's got 13 goals, 4 assists in the league. But it's his games, funnily enough, at international level and in Europa League that really stood out to me. So I remember seeing a clip a long time ago of a goal he scored against Basel from outside the box, and it was absolutely frightening, sort of the technique behind it. Lots of fakes, lots of feints, very Kvara mould in terms of two-footed on the dribble. Not like, we was having this conversation a long time ago. We were saying like, Kvara's not like overly skillful. He doesn't do skills for the sake of it. He's very much the same in terms of a lot of jinx, a lot of fakes, a lot of, really just good manipulation in tighter spaces. He's got the low socks, which is obviously why I'm comparing him to Kvara. But looking at his Europa League games, I just think that's what stood out to me in terms of European stage. He scored a penalty against Italy when they obviously got qualified through to obviously the World Cup. And I just think this could be a player who at the end of this, people will be licking the lips at. He's still 18 years old, which is ridiculously young for a World Cup, but he does start. Very favourable group, good scope to go far, good scope to see him against good opposition, more importantly. So I think this is one that I'm really fancy. He obviously got the assist for the goal against Wales as well, and scored a penalty against Wales too. So really, really good technique, really fluid dribbler. Really like aesthetically, and I know we're always supposed to challenge them biases, but aesthetically so good to watch. Yeah, just like a little so smooth on the ball, and I'm not sure if he's a pure winger. He could be like a little bit more of like a Grealish mould. Yeah. Not sure if he's so much.
Well, I think it's a great reference point. I think this is the one thing that from a recruitment perspective, people always are constantly battling with. Like these types of players, you almost want to wait to see how they perform in a World Cup where they're against the best a lot of the time. But then the downside of that is if they do play well, the price will naturally be driven up. So I think for players like this where the majority might not be that aware of him, it's an incredible opportunity for him to go and demonstrate what he can do against players that if he wants to get to that level, he'd have to show he can do it week in, week out. So I think you're still very young, like you've spoken about, but with that like youthfulness comes a lot of like bravery, confidence, a bit of swagger, like arrogance to go and make things happen. So I think he'll be a really interesting one too.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at Bosnia. I was talking to you about Bosnia before, and it was a little bit more like when I watched them against Italy. They have, like we were mentioning before about another player, I can't remember who it was, but that luxury player, if you're defending deep, can you let that one player go?
Yeah.
And Bosnia, like their deep block is so hard to break down, and he feels like that golden ticket out of the press. They've got a lot of veterans in that Bosnia squad, like an Ojeko's still there. Yeah. So they've got like a lot of old heads around it, and I feel like they're all putting the faith in this kid a little bit. And I think if they're defending really deep in a group that they could get wins and points in, I think the best way to do that is like release him.
Yeah.
And yeah, just really clean footwork. Like the change of direction's ridiculous, and I think at his age, it's now going to be the chance to see him in a more durable, robust setting.
Exactly.
So that for me is where it's going to be. But yeah, Karim Agliabegovic, yeah, really good player. So I think we will touch on this. We was looking for an underachiever. I didn't want to say England because that's boring. And yeah, me and Patrick have both got the same one, and I'm not sure if it's just a gut feeling or from what I've seen, but I've gone Argentina. I'll let Patrick obviously talk about it later, but my reasons were, I do have a good feeling that Messi could literally just drag them up the pitch and just do everything for him. But the squad is like not any different from the 22 squad. And I know that's obviously funny because they won it, but I feel like a lot of the players have almost got to that age of like, they're not in the peak anymore. They're actually past the peak or over the hill.
Yeah.
So
I think you can look at it both ways, can't you? You can also look at the spine is still the same. So you could argue on one side it's strong and it's got a strong base. But like you touched on there, I think they've got a bit of youthfulness with Nico Paz and a couple of other players. But you could argue, yes, the climate suits them. So there's those positives. But I feel like it's going to take a lot for Messi to carry them through this tournament to go and sort of retain the trophy. I think they may get caught out in terms of energy, in terms of dynamism against teams that have more aggression and more ability to go play quickly and turn them inside out. So I think I'm in agreement for that sense. I'm not saying they'll have a horrific tournament, but I just don't think
they're going to win it, basically.
Maybe like a quarter-final stage, maybe a knockout stage where I think they may struggle a little bit. So that's my sort of agreement in that sense.
I think, to be honest, I was just looking at the team and we were mentioning before, like McAllister played a lot in that last World Cup. It doesn't look like he's obviously at the peak physicality. Otamendi still plays. There was just a lot of players for me that I just think are just a little bit not physically ready. And I think the squad, obviously we mentioned Nico Paz, who's a brilliant player. Perone, who I like a lot from Como as well, I think has been called up. Just doesn't feel like they have the right freshness. And I feel like when you look at the teams who are going to win it, they either have to be a young core in there or there has to be at least added freshness into the squad. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be betting against Lionel Messi to have a bad tournament. That could very easily just go out the window. But I actually had a look at their recent their games against the teams who they're in the groups with. They've only ever played one game against Algeria and lost it. So that happened in 2007. Their record against Austria, and Austria, who are in their group, they are obviously Ralf Rangnick's team. They will press the life out of them no matter the climate. So that'll be a tough game. They've only got one win, one draw, one loss against Austria, even though they all come in the 90s or earlier. But not much historic background with any of the teams in their group at all. So, yeah, really, really difficult one to call. I think the Underachievers is a really difficult one to call simply because every squad's just got unbelievable quality in it, regardless, even all the top teams. But yeah, no, really happy with that. No mention of the likes of Germany. Who obviously got one of the best young coaches in the world, Nagelsmann, got really deep squad with Wirtz, Havertz.
I think a lot of that we spoke about before. I think if they can get those people ticking, like Wirtz, Musiala, Havertz, if they can get some kind of like fluidity in that front three, if they can get some combinations going. They're obviously, a lot of this tournament comes down to momentum as well. So sometimes you look at the team that go deep and you might look at the squad and think they're not necessarily the strongest, but it may only take a few wins and a bit of rhythm and then they're there. But I think they've definitely gone under the radar, probably similar to Portugal in that sense. But probably not too far away from England, probably not too far away from other sides at that level. So I think, I think it'll be interesting to see how they deal with the conditions as well.
No, that was brilliant. I really, really, really enjoyed doing that. I think it's going to be hopefully a brilliant World Cup. I mean, it's the biggest one. It's 48 teams. I hope England do well. But yeah, for me, it's going to be a good one. So would you like to say anything else for the
Yeah, well, to be honest, like you said, I think it's going to be, for fans, it's going to be great because there's more games. I think, obviously, like you touched on, I think it'll be the longest ever duration of a World Cup. Yeah. So many different challenges that come with it. I think there's no real standout side that you can hang your hat on and go, they're going to be in the final or they're going to win it. So that obviously brings with it a lot of interest. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to the usual, can the big players perform for their sides? Can people avoid injuries? I think injuries, we touched on at the very start, that could play a big factor. Pathway through the groups. Can people manage their energy in the group stages, win early, and then maybe utilise their squad for the third group stage game? I think all of these different elements, when you're thinking of going deep, is going to be really important. So, obviously we've given our kind of favourites for certain things, but obviously anything can happen. There could be I know you've spoken about Morocco a little bit. Yeah. Colombia, there's a few sides that may kind of
be hard to play against
because of different factors. So really looking forward to it, and I think it's obviously come around so quickly as well. So it'll be good to get started. Yeah,
no, brilliant. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you very, very much for watching this episode of the Overlap Breakdown. And if you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next week on the channel. Thank you.